Yeah, right? So, oh, that's my microphone's not here. So what I'd like for us to do, we've done this before, and we're going to take about 3 minutes, and you can grab a card if you're a writer, and you can write, or you can just be calm and just hang in this space with the Lord. And if there's thoughts that start to distract you, I'm just going to encourage you to release those thoughts. Just let them go. Like, you know, you catch and release a fish. And so if there's thoughts that distract you, part of the journey and the joy is to just release those and allow ourselves to take a moment to just hear what the Lord wants to say to you, what your spirit is saying. So we're going to do that. Does anybody have something that they would like to share that they are hearing God say, or that they just want to celebrate that God's doing in their lives?
Do you want me to go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I've recently been wrestling with the places that I hate the most about myself, like just the parts that feel stuck, or I don't understand why they're there or whatever. And so I felt like during worship, God was saying the places that you fear really most about yourself has a treasure chest marking that spot. You'll come to see those areas of yourself as gold. Don't dig for it. It's where you invite the Trinity to stay and speak. And that was helpful.
Yeah, that's helpful. That's super good. Thank you, Lindsay, for sharing. Yeah, Carrie, do you mind just taking that?
Yeah, I just kept hearing, be still and know that I'm God. Yeah, just sometimes when there's internal storms, like what you're saying, fears or things that are coming up, and I've been struggling with actually being brave this week and powerful rather than letting things happen to me, actually speaking out. And one is kind of funny. He was playing tennis, and We've all been playing tennis on, I play with a group of people at our community, and they, for some reason, have chosen to serve into the sun. And early on, I said something, and we had a switch because we rotate through. People didn't like it that I said that. So meanwhile, I haven't been saying anything, and it's hurting my eyes, and I'm not good at putting sunglasses on because I can't play as well that way. And so finally this morning, I just felt like enough is enough, because I've also been hurting my back as I've been trying to, like, where's the ball and stuff. And so I said it. I said, I'm sorry, but I need to serve from this side. And because I'm more of a feeler person, I started crying, which I hate that. But I felt so empowered to finally say this, and this is okay to do it. So I had to go and explain to people, I'm just working on doing this. So I created a safe place for me to do that, even if nobody really got that. I needed to do that for me, to step beyond my fear of people and beyond my fear of, like, my opinion matters. I can say this, and it's actually healthy for me because now my eyes aren't hurting, and I won the 3 times that I was serving. So again, it was fun, and thank you,
well, there's
God.
also that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh.
So I have felt like for probably about the last 2.5 years that God's been calling me into silence. And so about 2.5 years ago, I quit working and kind of took that step towards Him, but didn't go fully. I would spend a little bit of time in meditation each day, but I wasn't fully surrendering myself. And so this year it kind of has, like, and I say this year like the school year, because that's how my life is. So this year, as it starts and the kids go back to school, I've made this commitment, and in my mind I switched it over to where it was like a job, and so I'm going to work. And so I'm spending hours a day in silence, and He's just come to me in such amazing ways, and it's just beautiful. So that's it.
That's so good. Thanks, Treasure. I want to release, before you speak, Anne, not children to Miss Christie, but any nursery kids who are ready to go with parents. I'm going to let those nursery kids be released. We'll release the other kids in just a moment. Okay, go ahead, Anne. Thank you.
So I'm actually really encouraged by what everybody said before me, because I didn't have any answers. I just had this burden, a weightiness related to an awareness of a feeling of emptiness that is sort of revealing itself, and it's caused a lot of grief. Like, I just don't know how to live with it very well. And so as I was just trying to hear the Lord about what this is about, He brought up the word purpose, and then He said, and I'm not talking about tasks or busyness. And so it came to me that I just needed to sit and listen and not rush towards activity, because that's how I usually cover up any discomfort that I have, is just by getting busier. So I'm just really encouraged by it.
I'm sure nobody can relate to that at all.
So anyway, thank you to everyone who shared, because that really, good. I was like, oh, maybe I am actually hearing the Lord. Maybe this is really what He's talking about right now.
That's so good. And who else feels like God's talking to them about that? About quietness and about speaking to us? And yeah, so quite a few of us we're in it together. So good. Anyone else want to share? Yeah, thanks, Janice.
There were just 2 scriptures that came to my mind, and one of them was, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." The burden part was that, like the burden. I just was really thinking that, feeling that. "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And then the other one was, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you, not as the world gives, do I do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid.
That's so good. So I'm so encouraged, Janice, because rarely do people share scripture when we do sharing, and I asked the Lord what verse he wanted to share and speak over us, and he said it will come from someone here. So, yay! Okay, did anyone who did the art boards want to share about the art they did? I'm so digging this heart that's filled with all this color, and then a person in the section of the heart, like, eee! So good. So that's Elliot. That's Elliot, and he's okay. We can maybe have him back. Anybody want to? You don't have to share on the artboard, but if you would like to, here's one side. This one is the heart with the body. I'm so digging that. And then here is another one, and this is by Eleanor, Mia, Elliot, and Hope. Oh, fun! I love seeing our kids cross like that. And it says, do you want to say what it says?
Sure.
Okay, Greg's gonna grab the mic and give that to you so we can hear you.
The artistic juice is kind of like overflowed, so that was cool.
The artistic just kind of started overflow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It originally said,
That's me, I think.
okay, the sky is the limit, dream your dreams. And then, yeah.
And then it just started pouring
Yeah.
out everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say thank you for including my kids. I'm sure you wanted that to look so much more beautiful.
Oh no, I had so much more fun including them. I had so much more fun including them.
Yay! I think that's how God feels, right? He's like, I had so much more fun including you in whatever it is that he's doing. You know, doesn't he have some, he's like, you know, perfection's overrated. Fun is way better. Yay! Okay, we are going to release our kids who are 10 and under to Miss Christy and Miss Jocelyn, and I would love for you guys to be back at 5:08. So many of you know that we are kind of in the middle of a series inspired by Danny Silk's book, Keep Your Love On, and we've kind of relabeled our series Becoming Powerful People, because we really felt like the Lord was speaking to this community in so many different ways about becoming powerful people, that we no longer need to be rescued, but that the Lord is wanting to raise us up into all maturity and to teach us who he made us to be. Because I think we're all super acquainted with who we're not, right? I'm pretty acquainted with who I'm not. I was who I'm not multiple times today. But we're learning how to become fully convinced of who God made us to be. And we're learning how to become consistently who God made us to be in all circumstances, in all opportunities, with all people. And so Danny has 7 things that he feels like creates healthy relationships. And so we'll do a quick update. We're not going to go through all of them. We're going to wrap it up, actually, these 7 things. But last week, yeah, if you don't mind, that would be super great. We talked about the foundations of a healthy relationship, and it's so important, I think, to have these conversations because so many of us were raised in a faith-based environment that maybe necessarily didn't equip us to be the most healthy. So we elevated this idea of love and unconditional love, but I'm discovering that instead of asking myself, what's the loving thing to do in this situation, I hear the Holy Spirit encouraging me to ask the question, what's the healthy thing to do in this situation? What's healthy? And it's very, very interesting that that doesn't line up with love for me, always. And I'm discovering that God is redefining love. And I think Danny does a really good job on that. And the first one, that pillar of foundation, is love and acceptance. But love and acceptance isn't, I just allow everything that you bring into my sphere to exist. I choose healthy, and I require that you choose healthy to be in my space. The example that he gave was of a kid who has dirty shoes. They're running in the back door. They've just cleaned the house, and he says, I tell my son, take off your dirty shoes, and then you can come in the house. He says, I'm not controlling him. I'm not manipulating him. I'm not accepting him. I'm just saying, keep your mess outside. And so I love that example because what he's trying to do is go, let me help you understand the boundaries in your life, which is asking someone to keep their mess outside of your personal space isn't a lack of acceptance. It is actually encouraging them to be more their true selves. We had multiple conversations in our life coming into this where we were learning how to really understand what it meant to love each other unconditionally and stand for who God made us to be. So number 1 is love and acceptance. 2 is honor. That was super good. We won't go into that one. 3 is self-control, which we discovered isn't about like white knuckling it, but it is having nothing else control us. The freedom where nothing else controls us. No addiction, no desire, no compulsion, no fear controls us. I vote for that life, right? Where nothing else, that's the fruit of a life with the Holy Spirit, is that there isn't anything else that compels us to behave in any way other than our choice. That's being powerful. 4 was responsibility. So these are hallmarks of a healthy relationship, and we mentioned how responsibility isn't like that kind of like, I do the thing I promised I would do. It is so much more of, I am response-able. I am now able to respond to this situation. I am not compelled to behave in certain ways. And that's the sign of healthy relationship. It's a sign of us being healthy. Now, can you see how each of these things actually affects our relationship with the Lord? It's not just our relationship to each other, but if each of these pieces, if we don't understand honor, and we don't understand how God wants to teach us about managing ourselves and about being response-able, it starts to muck up our relationship with the Lord. And so 4, anyone want to guess? Oh, sorry, we're on 5. Anybody want to guess what 5 is? It's like one of the number 1 things that anybody wants in a relationship. Let's just throw one out. Anyone? To be known. Oh, that's super good. That's not one of his healthy things, but that would be good. It kind of goes with that, so probably you're really right on the right track. Very close on that. So all about being known and having intimacy, and it comes from truth. And truth is where we develop trust. Now here's the thing that so many of us have grown up in, and I've grown up in, a misunderstanding of what trust really is. Trust is not the ability to predict someone else's behavior. Did you catch that? Trust is not my ability to predict how Greg's going to behave. That's control and manipulation. Trust is about sharing yourself, knowing someone else, and giving them the freedom to make whatever choice they're going to make. You are trusting people to fail you. You are trusting people to be magnificent with you. And how is it that we free people to step into healthy trust? Because see, I grew up in the idea that healthy trust was that you do what I think you're going to do, right? We make commitments, we say how we're going to behave with each other, and then every time we fail each other, we break what? Trust, right? Anytime somebody doesn't behave the way that you want them to, it breaks your trust. How many of you have had that happen with God? He didn't behave the way you thought he was going to behave, and it broke your trust. So do you see how precarious that definition of trust is? Because every time somebody does something that isn't what's in your mind as to what they ought to do, you have now broken relationship. So what if truth and trust isn't the ability to predict somebody else's behavior? What if truth and trust is releasing them to be in their own journey, to know your heart, and for you to learn theirs? That would be a totally different ballgame, wouldn't it? Because now you're not trying to tell them how their behavior affects you. You are going inside and finding out how you feel about yourself and the relationship. So I don't know about you, but there was a season in our marriage where, like, Greg and I used to have the most magnificent conversations ever. Do you remember those? No. Like, he has no memory of this. We used to is it hot in here? I feel, but yeah? Okay, so maybe, I don't know. It's good?
Down.
It's right?
It's
okay.
The same temperature every week.
I don't know, it just feels hot. Probably because the topic I'm bringing up. Okay, so.
I don't know what you're bringing up. You didn't clear it with me.
I didn't clear it with you first. It's no big deal. So we used to have these amazing conversations. Like, we couldn't even watch a television show because we'd talk for like 10 solid hours.
Not you.
I know, but he would talk too, believe it or not. Like, I could talk for 10 hours at a stretch, no problem. Everyone believes that. But we would talk and talk and talk. And then somewhere in our marriage, like, I kept talking and he kind of talked less, a lot less.
There's only room enough.
Go ahead.
There's only room enough for so many words.
There's room enough for, so I realized that because he wasn't sharing as much, anybody done this? Because he wasn't sharing as much, I stopped sharing myself. And then there's some hurts, then there's some disappointments, there's a little bit of woundedness in the relationship, and what do you stop doing? You stop pursuing connection, and you start pursuing protection, right? And you stop sharing yourself. So I had to make a decision at a certain point in our marriage. I'm either 10 years down the road, I'm going to be married to a stranger who has no idea who I am. Or I'm going to choose to share who I am, regardless of whether or not he thinks what I have to say is fantastic, or he has anything to say in response. I decided that I was going to share myself regardless of his feedback, which, by the way, was not super great all the time. Now, he's gotten much better. Because you know, like, I've taught you the appropriate responses, like, that was really amazing. Because it just doesn't occur to him to say these things. Instead of, are you done now? No joke, right? Go ahead.
I don't know.
It's true. Our number one default when he has no idea what to do, especially if there's a few tears involved, because all he wants to do is exit the situation, let's just be honest, is thank you for sharing. We actually, like, if you have no idea what else to say, just say thank you for sharing. Because he's like, I am a deer in the headlights. I really literally have no idea what to do with you right now. And I have no idea what you want from me. And that's what I learned to do, was release him from my expectation of how he would behave. And share my truth. Share myself. And free him from my need of his affirmation. Woo. Anyone want to comment on that one? Not so much. Because I realized that I was basing trust on you will behave in a way that's acceptable to me, right? But if I change that concept and go, no, my trust is based on I release you to be yourself. In fact, this has become a huge issue for me. I'm going to need to check time because we're a little short on time tonight. I've been learning that in this adventure with church. Because often the Lord will show me who people are. Like, I see you, Jared, and I see the magnificence of who God made. I see you, Lynn, and I see things about people that is magnificent and beautiful, and sometimes things that are so good that they don't even see it themselves. And I feel like that's this beautiful thing that the Lord gave me, which is this gift to be able to see people the way He sees them. I don't see it all, trust me, because I'd probably be just like laid out, excited, and not even be able to move with how amazing God made each of you to be. But I do get to see little snippets. Now, guess where this whole process went south for me? I thought I was standing for each person to become that. Guess what happens to that? I am now holding you hostage to my expectation. There are a million yeses between a revelation of what God shows you about who a person is and actually being that person consistently here on earth. And I didn't realize that I was holding people hostage to my expectation that they become the person that I saw when God and I talked about them. And I realized that's not a foundation for a healthy relationship. I need to get back to truth, which creates trust, which is, I might see you a certain way, and I am free to share that with you. And I now release you to do whatever you want with that. That means we're no longer leveraging, manipulating, and controlling each other to behave in ways that meet our, not needs, fears. fears are really at the source of wanting people. That's trust, right? Our traditional concept of trust. Super good. Okay, I'm excited. Let me just take a look at my notes. Yeah, so trust is often threatened when someone behaves in a way that's unexpected. And what do we tend to do in an unhealthy reaction? We try to leverage, predict, or control the other person's behavior. And now we know that we have hit upon a fear. And that's our issue. And it frees us to change the way that we're relating to the person and get back to a healthy foundation. Trust is built when we share ourselves and we free people to have their own journey. Why is this so challenged? I believe that this is so challenged because of where our faith lies. So faith is number 7.
What's number 6?
Oh, sorry. Oh, 6 is faith, sorry. 6 is faith. So 6 is faith, and it's where our faith lies. And I think that what has happened in many of our relationships with each other is that we have turned to each other to be a source in our life that only God was meant to be. Right? We have looked to the other person to meet our needs. And while a portion of that is healthy, what has gone south in that is that we have looked to another person to be our source. To be our source of decision making, to be our source of finances, to be our source of comfort, to be our source of peace. And God always designed that the only way we're ever really full is when He is our source for everything. Now, Greg and I did this. When I had Abraham, he had colic for 9 months, and it was a super challenging season in our life, wasn't it? And it was super painful because I was, one, not getting good sleep. In fact, so bad that at a certain point I started having auditory hallucinations, which was I was hearing things that weren't actually real. So my nervous system was a bit messed up, and I was feeling super needy and fragile because I was like kind of having a bit of a breakdown. Let's just be honest. So I wanted Greg to rescue me because he should. Because that's what our relationship is based on, is that I trust him to be there when I need him.
Instead, I would make sounds and pretend that nothing made those sounds.
Serious? No, I know you didn't. So I kept putting pressure on him, right? Has anybody put pressure on someone to be something for you and that person just absolutely refuses to do it? How infuriating is that? Because if our foundational place, if our safety, if our security is based on their behavior, how solid is that? How much do we need to control and manipulate them to be safe if they are the ones that their behavior determines whether or not we're okay? I realized, so I asked the Lord, well, by the way, also Greg totally refused to rescue me. He definitely helped, and he was a wonderful father and husband, but he would not rescue me in the ways that I wanted him to rescue me. Now, honestly, that could have just wrecked things for years, because what would have happened? It would have broken my trust. But the Lord had been teaching me this beautiful thing through a magnificent man named Graham Cook, and he said, ask me, what does this mean? What shall I do? Right? What does this mean? What shall I do? So I went to him and I said, my son has colic. I'm totally freaking out. I'm close to an emotional or mental or something breakdown because I can feel myself on the edge. And my husband's not being for me what I want him to be. What does this mean? What shall I do? And he said, this is what the Lord said. He said, oh, the reason why you're such a wreck isn't because your husband's not helping you. The reason you're such a wreck isn't because your son has colic. The reason you're such a wreck isn't because of lack of sleep. He said, the reason you're a wreck is because you keep waiting for Greg to provide something to you that only I can provide. The reason you feel emotionally unstable is because you have a foundation that will never last. You are putting Greg in a place that only I can be for you. So I said, what do I do? What does this mean? Now what do I do? Guess what the Lord said to me? This was so not music to my ears. He said, well, you should probably go to Greg and ask him for forgiveness. what? I'm going to ask him for forgiveness for not being here for me? Like, are you kidding me? He goes, no. What you're asking for forgiveness for is putting on him the burden of being God to you. And the burden of being God to you has wrecked your relationship. It's wrecked your relationship. You putting that burden on him of being your source and your safety is what's causing all this tension between the two of you. So I came to him and I said to him, this is what I think is happening. And you said, do you remember?
I don't have a clue what I said.
You said, honey, you are a genius. You're totally right.
Oh. Okay.
Well, no, you didn't say that. You said, that sounds about right.
I'm quite godlike, right?
No, he didn't say the genius part. He said, I think that sounds about right. And he says, I couldn't determine what felt so wrong about it, but something felt wrong about it. So he could feel that there was something in that wasn't right, where I was trying to put him in a rescuing role. So as soon as I took that back, because the Lord said, so what you did is you gave him trust that you need for me. So I took back my trust. I just said, I take back the trust that I gave to my husband. And Lord, you always meant for that to be with you. And so I'm now going to give it to you. And I don't know what that means. And I don't know what that means with, kind of feeling like I'm going to have a breakdown. And I don't know what that means with my kids still having colic. And I don't know what that means with the hurt feelings that I have with Greg. But I gave him something that never belonged to him. Now I'm going to give it back to you. Now what do you want to do? And guess what shifted? Me. The only thing that changed in that scenario was me. And now I was able to function, and it lasted, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 more weeks, and then all of those circumstances disappeared. So it was such an amazing thing to watch the process of the Lord going, this really is this whole thing of who you're putting your trust in. That's what faith is. Faith is looking for source. And when these pieces come together, you have number 7, which is an environment for shalom. An environment for shalom is that with another person, you have heaven on earth. You have a partnership with somebody where it is possible to release the atmosphere of the way God always intended it to be. That right connectedness, that right relationship, where we are able to honor, we're able to love and accept, we're able to be response-able, we're able to share our truth and trust, because we are freeing that person to respond in whatever way their journey and their part of their journey leads them. And the environment of shalom is a place of peace. It is this divine order. It's when your body starts to experience some divine health, when you're stepping into these places of right relationship. It's where nobody else really can manage your honor for you. Nobody else can manage your response-ableness. Nobody else can determine your trust or your truth. Nobody else can manage your self-control, and it's where all of the excuses go away and we are free to explore the beauty of who God made us to be in the relationship, where we are seeing each other the way God made us, but we're no longer demanding that the other person behave in ways that limit our fears. Because that's what a lot of our life is about, is navigating. I hear people say over and over and over again, I just want to go to a safe place. I want to be in a group that's a safe place. And I think that that's super admirable, and I want to be that safe place, but I'm discovering that if we keep waiting for someone else to provide the safety, right, it doesn't ever happen. Because guess what? The minute my value conflicts with your value, we are no longer safe to each other. So what we get to do is we get to become the safe place ourselves, where I learned how to share my heart with Greg, and he had no idea what to do with that. He didn't know how to affirm it. He didn't know what to do. And I just said, here's my journey with God. Here's what I'm learning. And I just kept sharing it week after week after week after week. I would share my heart. Share my heart. We had no dialogue. It was a monologue. I would tell him ahead of time, this is going to be a 5-minute monologue. This is going to be a 7-minute monologue. And there were times where I said, this is super emotional for me. If you have any response whatsoever that's slightly positive, you can use it today. because that would be super good for me. But you don't have to. Because see, I was becoming, God was teaching me, I'm the safe place, where I don't need someone else to tell me I'm okay. I don't need someone else to reaffirm the journey that I'm in with God. And when we get to those places, we no longer demand of other people that they provide it for us. Right? Okay, so let's take a moment and let's just listen to the Lord and see what He wants to encourage you in. Because the verse that Janice shared with us is, "Come to me who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Because partnership with me is healthy, the yoke is easy, the burden is light. Life with me, I will bring you into healthiness. I will bring you into your true identity. And see, this is, I discovered what God does with us every single day, is He lives and dwells in us, knowing who we really are, while living with the us that's totally confused about who we are and doesn't behave in our true identity, and He doesn't hold it over us. He's not trying to leverage or manipulate or control us into becoming the person He knows we are. This so messed me up because I realized about 8 months ago, the Lord, I was going, my core value, Lord, used to be, and I'm gonna have you put this on the board. We were all raised, is anyone not raised in America? I'm wrapping up with this. So we were all raised in a similar environment where the number one thing that is like valued in America, well, there's about 5 of them, but one of the ones is making a difference. Right? We want our lives to make a difference. I was raised, born and bred on making a difference. Guess what's wrong with that? In order to make a difference, I actually have to have someone else create an outcome that I want to have happen. Right? If I'm making a difference in your life, then you actually have to be different because of our relationship. And you know what that does? I know, right? Doesn't that just blow your mind up? And so I'm learning that I'm not even making do you mind putting up here? I'm no longer even